Now I'd like to present our business strategy.
So SoftBank Group. What is SoftBank Group, you may ask? Especially these past 3-4 years, many people ask me, what is SoftBank Group? Masayoshi-san, as an entrepreneur, I like you very much, but Masayoshi-san, as an investor, I don't like you too much. That's sometimes that I hear from the people. Actually, I am not a simple or traditional investor compared to the others, as a matter of fact. But at the same time, it would take me a long time to explain all the reason why. So that's why that I try to explain by making a shortcut, saying we are just making a company transforming into investment company. But once that I think about whether SoftBank Group is really a simple or traditional investment company, it's a little bit difficult to explain, and I've been a bit frustrated. How should I best explain to you what is SoftBank, what is Masayoshi-san? So here, I have taken this opportunity to explain to you what is SoftBank Group, and I would like to make some ideas for you as a definition for SoftBank Group. So I would say capital provider for the information revolution. I think this is the answer for SoftBank Group. But vision capital provider for the information revolution. What is that, you may ask? So here on that I would like to explain to you once again. Back in 19th century, industrial revolution occurred, as you know. This industrial revolution back then, there are many inventors, famous inventors, did a great job. But the industrial revolution did not happen only by inventors. That's how I see. Same as equally important as inventor, there were a capitalist actually provided the capital to inventor. For example, in Europe, the industrial revolution occurred, but the one good example of inventor is Mr. Watt. And as a capitalist, famous capitalist, Rothschild or the Rothschilds are there. Of course, there are another inventors, other capitalists there, but these two are quite a good example, good representatives for this industrial revolution. Mr. Watt is quite famous, but Rothschild as capitalist may not be fully understood, may not be fully valued. That's why that I wanted to give him a little bit of light here. In Europe, industrial revolution occurred, especially he made great investments in railway. That what Mr. Watt and others created this great invention of railway, and the Rothschild actually provided a huge capital, taking a huge risk, and provided the investment here. And also oil, by taking risk, Mr. Rothschild provided his capital to such business. So I believe that we can call him as a very good example of capitalist for industrial revolution. And this inventor and the capitalist actually led the industrial revolution. Along with such revolution, GDP has grown as well. 200 years later, in 21st century, now we have information revolution blooming in full bloom. Same as industrial revolution, I believe that we have entrepreneurs. Amazon, Jeff Bezos of Amazon, Steve Jobs of Apple, Bill Gates of Microsoft, Google, Facebook. There are so many companies actually established by such great entrepreneurs, which led information revolution. But at the same time, capital provider provided the money or fund to such entrepreneurs so that we were able to drive information revolution. We, SoftBank Group, would like to lead AI information revolution, which is our main focus. In AI area and in AI information revolution, we believe that we are the biggest in terms of providing capital in such area. With AI, autonomous driving, healthcare, finance, education, retail, in a variety of these sectors are redefined through AI. Vision Fund 1, 2, and LATAM Fund, through such investment vehicle, we have invested in about 260 companies so far. Majority of the company are not actually making money. So such a company, we are taking risk and at the same time providing funds or investing in such company as a capital provider. So industrial revolution, manpower was replaced by machine back then at the industrial revolution. But the information revolution, actually, AI will be the one that replacing machinery. In industrial revolution, the main player was, one of the main players was Rothschild. And I believe we like to become the key player in information revolution. So we would like to be capital provider for the information revolution. That is our new definition or new positioning, I would say, to describe SoftBank Group. So SoftBank as a capital provider. And what is the most important indicator for capital provider? Majority of the company actually net income is one important indicator to measure. But we, as a capital provider, last year, we have recorded 5 trillion yen of net income. But I don't believe this is the most important indicator for us. As I have mentioned several times in the past, net asset value, which is also very important as an indicator for SoftBank Group. So out of the total asset we have, less debt gives you net asset value. So this we also known as NAV. This is the most important indicator for us, we believe. And as of the end of March, NAV, net asset value, was 26 trillion yen. I think it is about 25 trillion yen as of today. It makes changes every day. So this number is as of the end of March. So looking back 25 years, so in the past, the main player for net asset value was Yahoo back then. And then SoftBank Mobile became the main driver. These days, Alibaba is taking a very important role. Recently, Vision Fund is taking a good lead in this net asset value.
So there were 4 main phases in terms of who was the driver of our business. Especially recently, I myself spent a lot of my time on Vision Fund business. Looking back, since starting phase of the internet, SoftBank have invested in a lot of companies. In the past, we didn't have a lot of capital as a capital provider. But in the last 25 years, every year, we record IRR 43%. on compound basis. Currently, bank provides less than 1% of interest rate on your deposit, for example. So you have a good idea how big 43% is a number in terms of return. Most traditional asset management companies, maybe IRR 8%, 10%. So compared to those traditional asset managers, our IRR 43% is great, especially when you think about making this a number for 25 years. So I should be proud of that, I think. Up until last year, Vision Fund was criticized or given hard time. People may say that Masa is not young anymore, so Masa's insight is not as good as before, and Masa becomes too greedy, or you don't have a lot of money and you don't have a lot of hair anymore. So a lot of criticism I receive, but finally we started to seeing some recovery, and SoftBank Vision Fund for last 4 years, net equity IRR 43%. So we are proud of that performance. That said, there are a lot of lessons we learned, like Greensill, Katera, and WeWork, and WAG, like a dog walking application. I felt embarrassed sometimes by those hard lessons, but we begin to see great performance. Again, SoftBank is a capital provider for the information revolution. I keep saying capital provider. So what's the difference between investor and capital provider? They sound similar, but for me, there is a significant difference between investor and capital provider. So in the last 40 years, I tried to explain what's the difference between a commercial person and business person. To investor, most important thing or the biggest goal they should pursue is to make money. So make as much money as possible is the cause or purpose or goal for the investor. But for capital provider, what's the purpose or what's the goal? I mentioned Rothschild before as an example. For me, SoftBank Group, what's the gain or what's the goal, what's the purpose that a SoftBank should pursue as a capital provider? What's the most important goal for us as a capital provider? For me, as a capital provider, what's the most important indicator or cause or purpose? It is to create the future. Investor, make money. Capital provider, create future. Rothschilds and JP Morgan, for example, in the 21st century and 20th century, they built a foundation for the future. Likewise, SoftBank Group's goal is to create the future for people. That's the mission or purpose for SoftBank Group. Looking back last 25 years, the growth has been like this. If 1994's level was 1, Manufacturing sector grew by 13 times, finance 12 times, retail 8 times, and retail estate 5 times. In 2008, there was so-called Lehman shock, and the market tanked a lot. And you see a lot of ups and downs due to factors like interest rate or exchange rate or some monetary policy, financial policy, and statistics. Every day or every year, the market changes a lot. And investors look at those indicators every day to make investment decisions. So those indicators are very important for investor, but for capital provider, what's the most important indicator? Because capital providers' purpose is to create the future. If you look at the future 10 years, 20 years, and 30 years, I think for investors, yes, those indicators may be very important, but for capital provider in the long run, in 10, 20, 30-year span, from creating future perspective, personally, I don't think those are the most important indicators for a capital provider. So what I'm looking at is not those indicators, but the technology I'm looking at, what kind of paradigm shift those technologies may bring about. Internet, for example, in the last 25 years, it grew by 34% in terms of CAGR. SoftBank, 43% in the same period. The internet sector grew by 2,000 times or CAGR 34%. So talking about creating the future, of course, there are more risks you have to take when you want to create the future. The internet companies that we invested in, back then, they didn't make a lot of money. So no matter how much money we invested in or capital we provided, we were criticized, not only in Japan, but also in overseas. You invested in a lot of money into the startups that didn't make money at all. So from a lot of people's perspective, maybe we looked like a crazy guy, but performance, actual performance was 2,000 times growth. So capital invested grew by 2,000 times if you were to invest in each and every company in the internet sector. So my point is, capital provider has to take a lot of risk, but can enjoy a lot more return going forward. Information revolution should be driven by AI much more longer, because information revolution just started. That's how I view the information revolution. So again, in the industrial revolution, investor and the capital provider shared a vision to create a future. But going forward, in the era of information revolution, group of AI entrepreneurs and SoftBank Group share a vision to create a future. In autonomous driving sector, we aim for a world with autonomous driving and no accidents. In Japan, for example, the aged people age over 65 and older, I believe the 33rd of our population is very aged, like 65 years and older, and it gets older and older in the future. As you grow old, you may have more traffic accidents, but with autonomous driving, those aged people don't have to drive by themselves, but still can get to destination they want to go to. So autonomous driving powered by AI can bring a world with no accident, and also a world where AI analysis eliminates fatal diseases may be reality. A lot of diseases, conditions like Alzheimer's, AI and genome analysis are advancing to help eliminating fatal diseases going forward. In the world, billions of children don't get quality of education. They are suffering from lack of education. But through online education, AI can bring them equal opportunity. And also, we want to aim for a world of wealth-building opportunities for everyone. We want to aim for a world where everyone can focus on creative work. And with AI, we want to create a world where everyone enjoys life in their own way. SoftBank Group. Is it a venture capitalist or venture capital? Well, you could say SoftBank Group is a huge venture capital. But in terms of VC, I don't feel comfortable defining SoftBank Group as venture capital. But in terms of VC, SoftBank Group is a vision capital. To SoftBank Group, VC stands for vision capital. Vision capital to create a future of the information revolution. To me, it makes sense. This definition of SoftBank Group is something that makes sense to me. Again, SoftBank Group is vision capitalist for the information revolution. Information revolution, happiness for everyone. It's been the same vision since the start of our business. As a vision capitalist for the information revolution, we want to make it happen. Thank you very much for your attention.